You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. I'm Denisha Richard. Welcome in. Joining me today is a state lawmaker who wants to see changes in the Kansas Highway Patrol. He says a new plan will place authority under Attorney General-elect Chris Kobach in order to hopefully change the direction of the law enforcement agency. Joining me now is Republican State Senator J.R. Clays. Senator Clays, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Denisha.
So the Kansas Highway Patrol has a photo on their Facebook page, and it is a photo of their recent class of graduates, and it has about 5 troopers there. And while that photo in itself is quite positive, you say in so many words that that describes a problem in the Kansas Highway Patrol. What problem is that?
Yeah, really a trend we've been seeing over the past 3 years of really small graduating classes coming out of our Highway Patrol. But that's against the amount of people who are retiring and resigning from the Highway Patrol. In the past 15 days, so far the month of December, we've seen 6 retire or resign. The Highway Patrol Academy classes take 6 months and they graduated 5. We haven't even replaced the resignations and retirements of the past 15 days. That's a real problem in the state of Kansas, not having full coverage of the Kansas Highway Patrol troopers across our state. That means public safety. That means that we're putting people at risk. What you're going to see over time is an increase in the number of DUI crashes. You're going to see high-speed fatalities across the state increase, and that means that we're measuring this disaster that's occurring over at the Kansas Highway Patrol in lives. Disaster.
You say this is just part of the problem. You just called it a disaster, but you say you have a plan to basically remediate that, what you say is a disaster. What is that plan?
Sure. I mean, over the past 3 years, you've seen 80 troopers approximately leave the Kansas Highway Patrol. The numbers are declining rapidly, so we have a serious problem and it requires a serious solution. And so far, Laura Kelly, our governor, has shown absolutely no inclination towards changing the direction of the Kansas Highway Patrol. We went from the largest Kansas Highway Patrol graduating classes in the history of the Highway Patrol in 2016, 2017, 2018. Now we're seeing this precipitous decline where you're seeing 5, some of the lowest numbers. They're next to canceling classes and not having them at all. So what we're seeing now is that we need to have an answer. And if the answer isn't going to come from Governor Kelly, it needs to come from somewhere. And we can't stand by and just watch this continue to happen. So our plan so far is to discuss with our colleagues in the State House changing the appointment power over to the Attorney General's office. The Attorney General is the top law enforcement officer in our state. He currently presides over the Kansas Bureau of Investigation and appoints the director of the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. It makes complete sense to have the Attorney General also be the individual who appoints the head of the Kansas Highway Patrol.
And so when you talk about the leadership and change direction for Governor Laura Kelly, you want Governor Laura Kelly to do what?
I want her to change the individual at the top. The responsibility and the accountability are at the top of this organization. The top of the organization is what changed in 2019, which took us from the classes at the Highway Patrol Academy in Salina from the largest in history to the smallest in history. And there has to be accountability for that.
The head of the organization, meaning Superintendent Colonel Herman Jones, correct?
Absolutely. That's what needs to change.
And so you say that you and other lawmakers have went to Governor Laura Kelly about this before and asked her to change leadership at KHP, and she has supported Colonel Herman Jones, but you guys say that that should not be happening, that something needs to change, and you think Kobach is a better fit for the job.
I think that the appointment power being in the hands of the Attorney General, while it is the sort of the last thing that we want to do, it's the only thing that we can do at this stage. So I would much prefer, in fact, I'd be the happiest person in the State House if Laura Kelly would simply make this change.
But when you think about it, the Attorney General does, like you said, does have power over the KBI. He also has authority over local and county and district attorneys. Do you think that that's too much power for one person to also have yet another law enforcement agency as large as the Kansas Highway Patrol under their realm? Do you think that's too much?
So the budgeting process and many of the processes are still in the hands of the legislature. We do have a proposal that moves the entirety of the agency over under the Attorney General. We also have a proposal that simply temporarily takes, for the next 4 years, the appointment power away from Laura Kelly and vests it in our Attorney General with an expiration date. So it would simply be a temporary change until after the next election.
But I think it was mentioned before that you have said that if Governor Kelly removes leadership from Colonel Herman Jones, that this plan would not even
It wouldn't be necessary. Absolutely, it would not be necessary. The Kansas Highway Patrol is an amazing law enforcement agency. One of the things that I think is important to note is that this isn't some partisan action. We had a very difficult time preceding 2015 with our Kansas Highway Patrol. It was hitting the same kind of numbers that it's hitting now. In 2015, I took over the public safety budgets in the House of Representatives. And at that time, we created a plan to reverse this trend. New leadership was put in. We also increased the pay. We created a drop program so those who are retiring could stay longer in the Highway Patrol. We wouldn't lose so many people to retirement. And we solved this problem. That's why you saw those huge classes coming into the academy in Salina. This isn't partisan. That was under a Republican governor that it was really tough in the Kansas Highway Patrol. I don't want to go back to that. I don't think anybody does. If Laura Kelly will allow us to fix this problem, I'm all for it. Let's do that. Let's work with Laura Kelly and make that happen. But so far, zero inclination that she wants to solve this problem.
Okay, we're going to talk a little bit more about this when we return. Speaking here with Senator J.R. Clays and his plan for the redirection of the Kansas Highway Patrol. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics. We'll be right back.
Save with Vanderbilt's and Ariat. Receive up to a $100 rebate on any Ariat product. Choose from a wide selection of clothing and footwear to maximize your savings. Stylish and comfortable men's Ariat Terrain waterproof boots on sale $99.99. Durable Ariat rebar work jeans. Our price $52.99. New colors just in. Check out Ariat's Vernon soft shell starting at $114.95.
Your work boots center, Vanderbilt.
Don't let Sheldon on a shelf ruin your holiday season. Be insured. Copeland Insurance Agency, insuring what's important to you since 1960.
Winter Wonderland is celebrating its 25th year, and all of your favorite light displays are back, plus some new additions you're going to love. When you drive through this amazing 2-mile light display, you not only get to experience the beauty of the season, but you'll be supporting TARC and thousands of individuals with disabilities who rely on its services. Donations can be made at the gate, or you can get advance tickets at these locations. Don't miss this holiday tradition. Please join us in supporting TARC and Winter Wonderland.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Denisha Richard. Continuing our conversation with Senator J.R. Clays and his proposal to change direction of leadership with the Kansas Highway Patrol. So we just talked about what you wanted to see from Governor Laura Kelly, and you also talked a little bit more about Superintendent Colonel Herman Jones. I want to ask more about Kobach. What has Kobach said about this? Does he want authority over the KHP? Does he have a plan in place that he's discussed with you guys about what he will do if he were to have authority?
This isn't an ask that's coming from the Attorney General's office or the Attorney General-elect. This is coming from legislators who are exasperated with the situation that's in front of them. So whether this power goes to the Attorney General or anyone else is really a legislative decision. And with the supermajorities of Republicans currently, we're capable of overriding a veto should Laura Kelly choose not to act on this. My hope is that there is enough attention brought to this that she simply decides that it is time to act. I pray that that's what happens. If not, then we'll proceed with these bills. We'll attempt to get these things done, whether it's moving the agency entirely or simply moving the appointment power. But no, this is not something that's derived out of the AG-elect's office. This is a legislative-led effort.
So it almost sounds like a bit of an ultimatum. Like if Governor Kelly doesn't do this, we're going to do that. Do you think that you guys have to go through these steps in order to make change happen at the Kansas Highway Patrol?
Unfortunately, we do. It's been 3 years. It can't be 4 more. 4 more years of what's going on right now at the Kansas Highway Patrol will decimate that agency. There won't be much left. And like I said in the previous segment, the cost of that is going to be measured in lives, and we can't sit idly by while this happens. There were a lot of excuses made for why the number keeps decreasing. The Highway Patrol came to us and they said, oh, it's COVID. It's very difficult to recruit during COVID. The defund the police movement. Oh, it's the environment. The defund police movement, it's making people not want to be police officers. The pay is too low. Let's go look at Wichita, Kansas then. The Wichita Police Department pays less than the Kansas Highway Patrol. The Wichita Police Department, working and operating in the exact same COVID environment and defund the police environment as the Kansas Highway Patrol. And in 2020, at the height of COVID, the Wichita Police Department had its largest recruiting class in history, over 50. The Kansas Highway Patrol had one of its smallest. This is an issue of leadership, and the excuses just simply have to stop. It's time to take accountability. It's time for the individuals responsible for this to be held accountable, and it's time for there to be a switch at the top of the Kansas Highway Patrol.
Has there been any initiative to find out from those who actually work at the KHP to find out why these classes are lower and why they're leaving, why they're retiring earlier? Has there been any interviews or any information that has been given to give insight on what they're thinking? I mean, because we do have legislators who believe that they know what these officers want, but these officers are putting themselves on the line, these men and women, every single day. And of course, they want better pay, they want better leadership, all of those things. But has anyone asked them exactly what they wanted?
Sure. So the Kansas State Troopers Association approves of the plan that we're putting forward, or some plan that will accomplish making a change at the top. So that's for starters. I've also been contacted behind the scenes, obviously, because the amount of retaliation that's been occurring inside the Kansas Highway Patrol against troopers who speak out. I have been contacted privately by dozens of Kansas Highway Patrol troopers. There are plenty of individuals willing to risk their jobs, just absolutely brave individuals willing to risk their jobs to provide public safety for the citizens of Kansas. You can be very proud of the people at the Kansas Highway Patrol who are willing to take those risks to keep you safe. Now, they have intimated with me the number of issues that are going on inside the Kansas Highway Patrol. I think it backs up all the reporting that you're seeing publicly that's happening right now. There are severe issues with the Kansas Highway Patrol, with the amount of retaliatory attacks that are happening to people who speak up. And I believe, and I know from the people who have talked to me, that there absolutely needs to be a change at the top. There is a culture that has been created there where people are fearful for their jobs. And that's no way to run an organization. It just simply isn't.
And you know, to wrap this up, I want to ask you, it's both you and Republican Representative Stephen Owens. You two are currently on board for this change. Are there any other legislators that are on board to make this change for the KHP?
Sure. I think you've seen some statements from others in leadership on both sides, the House and the Senate, who are supportive of making some changes and looking into all of the problems. Part of this process is going to be holding days of hearings to really dig into what's going on at the Kansas Highway Patrol. We want it all out in the light of day so everyone can see exactly what has been going on for the past 3 years that led to these problems. And then, and only then, can we really truly solve those problems. I believe that one of the first steps that needs to be taken, just looking at the numbers, just looking at the replacement rate being impossible to keep Kansas safe, it needs to start at the top. We need to replace the individual at the top. And only then can we actually have some structural change in the agency that makes it so that people want to work there again, want to go out onto our highways and keep Kansans safe.
All right, Senator J.R. Clays, thank you so much for joining us
Thank
today.
you.
We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Renewal by Andersen installers are knowledgeable, professional, and respectful of you and your home throughout the entire process. The experts at Renewal by Andersen work closely with you to help you choose the right style, color, and finishes just for your home.
It was very straightforward and simple. I made an appointment. A sales rep came out, measured all the windows. We sat down and talked about my options and decided on one and pretty much moved forward from that point.
We own the entire process. We custom build your windows and install them in your home by only our factory certified master installers.
The installers were very professional. They cleaned up after themselves. You couldn't even tell they'd been there at the end of the day.
For a limited time only, buy one Renewal by Andersen window and get 50% off the second, or choose 2.99% financing.
Choose energy efficiency, choose durability, choose Renewal by Andersen.
Your love isn't confined to an advent calendar. It doesn't stop when the Christmas lights come down. With the Salvation Army, your love lasts all year long. It puts a present under someone's tree today and a roof over someone's head tomorrow. It brightens Christmas morning and the hardest nights for hardworking families. Together, we love beyond bell ringing, we love beyond snowfall, we love beyond Christmas.
Topeka, come enjoy our downtown. Live, work, play. Special thanks to our downtown activation sponsors.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. Joining me now is Spencer Duncan with the Kansas League of Municipalities, talking about legislative priorities for next year. We've been talking a lot about legislative priorities, so we wanted to bring this organization in to talk a little bit more about what they want to see in next year's legislative session. Now, Spencer, thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
So for those who don't know what your organization is about, your organization, the Kansas League of Municipalities, basically represents all of the interests in the cities of the state of Kansas.
Correct. There's 625 cities in Kansas. We represent over 550 of them who are members, and that is our job, to advocate on their needs, remind people of what we call home rule, which is let cities make their decisions for themselves. It doesn't all need to be made at the state level, and that's my constant refrain in this gig.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about what your organization wants to see come the next legislative session. A long list here that we've got, but I want to start off with property taxes. Of course, that has been a huge topic of debate here in the state of Kansas. As you know, Governor Kelly recently signed a bill into law saving millions of Kansans money on their property taxes. But what does your organization want to see when it comes to property taxes in the state?
Well, our goal is to always find ways to make sure cities can keep property taxes low or lower their property taxes. For us, there's going to be two big issues at the legislature this year. One is going to be, a few years ago, they passed what they called the revenue neutral rate. It was a Senate Bill 13. It is now to create more transparency in that process. It's been rolled out for 2 years, but we're still working on some things. There have been some glitches and errors in the system, and we want to get those corrected. The second thing, of course, is there was a case involving a Walmart store where Walmart took the case to the Supreme Court because they believed it was overvalued. We are okay with the current system, but there will be legislation to change that so that those stores are not valued quite as high. Those are kind of the short versions of two big issues that people will be talking about and hearing about this year.
So do you think property taxes are in a good place here in the state when it comes to the cities and how it regards to state property taxes?
Well, I think every state's different. I think you'll find, or cities different. You'll find some cities where, you know, they're working to lower it because it's gotten too high. One way that would help that is there's a fund that the state has not funded in 20 years. It's a local revenue fund, and by law they're supposed to put money into it every year to help reduce the property tax burden in cities. Hasn't been done in 20 years, and we will always continue to advocate to put money there.
Do you know why it hasn't
No, I
been
don't.
done?
I mean, they sort of tell us we don't have the money a lot of years, and that's understandable. The last several years, though, there has been a surplus, a budget surplus, including this year, so it would be nice if they would take a look at funding that fund once more after 20 years.
So there's lots of things that you guys want to see regarding property taxes come the next legislative session.
Yeah, a lot of things are paid for with property taxes, but the more you increase that tax burden, people can't pay it. And so cities are caught in that position of not wanting to raise property taxes, but also having to pay the bills. And we want to find a nice balance in between where we're not overtaxing citizens, but also being able to pay for roads.
So another item that's pretty high in the state of Kansas that many Kansans say, hey, I can't afford this. Housing.
Yeah.
That is also one of the priorities of the Kansas League of Municipalities.
Yeah,
what problems are you seeing regarding housing?
Well, nobody has enough. I mean, there's not a city. It doesn't matter whether you're the biggest city or the smallest city. Nobody has enough housing to bring in new residents or to even take care of the residents they have. I will give the legislature credit. They have actually the last few years put some things in place, some programs in place that cities can now access, which have been very helpful. Of course, we still have to pay for it. One of the things we are advocating for is the creation of a revolving loan fund with a very low interest rate that cities who don't have a lot of resources could tap into the state. We'd like about $100 million in that fund so that they can now access these programs that the state has created. They're a loan. We don't want free money, but it'd be a much lower loan than what they get out on the marketplace that allows some smaller communities to do it. Because other than that, there's not a lot of resources out there to pay for housing. Cities just don't have those funds, but we all need it.
And we all need a place to live.
Right, and it's every income level. That's the thing. You've got cities trying to recruit higher end people, but they don't have enough of that housing, and we definitely know that we don't have enough of low income housing throughout the state of Kansas.
All right, we've got a lot of different topics to talk about. We will continue that next coming up on Inside Kansas Politics. We'll talk about water and mental health issues. That's straight ahead. We'll be right back.
Home is where your hopes are. Your highest hopes for the people who live there, for the quality of their lives and happiness. You should have a medical home too, a place where the care is centered around your needs as a patient, with a complete team of providers working together to deliver all the care you need the most. That's Grace Med, the highest quality, most complete and affordable care for your whole health and the life you hope for. Because health restored is always hope renewed. Grace Med, the home of hope care for everyone.
If your furnace stopped working on a cold Kansas day, would you grab your toolbox and go to work? Then why would you try and sell your home without professional help? What's the right price? Should we stage it? A buyer's realtor asked for a contingency. How does that work? You have a lot of questions, and your home is your biggest investment. Let a professional member of the Sunflower Association of Realtors help you. To better understand why hiring a realtor is the right decision, go to sunflowerrealtors.com.
Upgrading your garage door is a reasonable and effortless way to increase curb appeal and security of your home. In fact, it's the #1 project for homeowners with a 98% return on investment. Heartland Door and Window can help customize your new garage door with the Virtual Design Center from Wayne Dalton Raymar. Also, ask the experts at Heartland Door and Window about our full line of storm doors or how to expand your living area with a custom screen room perfect for outdoor entertaining. For reliable service and installation, turn to the experts at Heartland Door and Window.
I'm Derek Schmidt, your Kansas Attorney General, encouraging you to give wisely this holiday season. Request information in writing, don't be pressured into giving, and ask how much of your donation goes to fundraising costs. Check whether the charity you support is registered with the Attorney General's office, and most of all, plan and budget your holiday donations just like any other expense. To learn more or check out a charity, visit www.inyourcornerkansas.org.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. I'm Denisha Richard. Continuing our conversation with Spencer Duncan here from the Kansas League of Municipalities. I want to talk more about what many call a crisis in the state. That is mental health.
Yep.
What do you want to see done with mental health in this state? It's such a widening problem that we see every day.
We need people and facilities. And some, again, much like we said with housing, there's not a city in this state that's not dealing with this problem, and different levels of problems. Some have some facilities or resources. They can't hire people out to their area to help them access those resources. In a lot of communities, it's where do we go? Someone's in mental distress, they're having a crisis, they've identified that person, they've got people who can help them. There's nowhere to take them, there's no facility. And we have got to connect those sources up to have a statewide system that can reach out and actually help those people. And it just doesn't exist. And the legislature has taken some positive steps again the last couple of years, but again, not even close to enough.
And it's such a scary reality. I remember a few months back, I spoke with an organization who said that if they don't have anywhere to put their patients, they have to go to different resources like a nursing home. They have to go to places where they might not be able to get the help that they need.
And it's at the core of lots of issues. It's addiction issues that affect people. It affects children and how they go to school and how they're dealt with in those environments. It's housing problems. Is it creating homelessness issues that we all have to deal with? So dealing with our mental health crisis will actually help us solve a lot of other problems because it's a core issue.
But do you think you'll see a lot of change in the legislature coming next year?
I'm always cautiously optimistic. I do know that they recognize it as a problem. I do know leadership on both sides, Democrats and Republicans, want to do something. And so it's up to folks like us and those mental health organizations to tell them, these are the tools you can give us. Just trust us and let us go deal with the problem.
Another problem that a lot of Kansans are dealing with right now is the state of water.
There's a lot less water today than there was yesterday, and tomorrow there's going to be even less. And it's been a constant discussion topic in this state for 30+ years, but it's hitting a point where we have to talk about it now and actually create a statewide water plan. From our perspective, our two issues are telling legislators, deal with it now, you can't wait any longer, and second of all, one size doesn't fit all. What they're dealing with in western Kansas is not the same issues we're dealing with in eastern Kansas, so that plan needs to be specific to allowing the cities to make some local decisions to what their issue is in regards to water.
What are some of the factors that you are outlining in the plan for water in the state of Kansas?
Well, I think a lot of people in eastern Kansas, including myself, who was a city boy raised in this part of the state, doesn't understand what irrigation really is and how it really works in western Kansas. And so we want to make sure that people get that knowledge base before they make decisions, that the folks who are actually irrigating our food source say, that doesn't work for us. You're hurting our crops, you're hurting our food source. This isn't watering your lawn. But there are lawn watering issues to preserve those in eastern Kansas that we want to adhere. So that really is our big push, is listen to the locals and pass a policy that identifies their problem and let them make those decisions to preserve water.
And like you said, we don't want to wait until the problem becomes too large to fix.
The numbers are horrifying if you look at how fast the Ogallala Aquifer is draining and the water sources coming into Kansas. I mean, it's nightmare numbers, so we know we have to deal with it.
All right, lots of things that you want to see happen come the next legislature in 2023. Of course, we'll be following up to see what happens with those issues. But I want to thank you for joining us today and talking to me more about what priorities you would like to see come next year. Spencer Duncan with the Kansas League of Municipalities. Of course, that was your look inside Kansas politics. If you want to keep up to date on all things Kansas politics, follow us on social media. Follow us on Twitter at @InKansasPolitics. Of course, if you have a story that you want Kansas state legislators to hear, let us know. We'll see you same place, same time next Sunday. Thanks for watching.